Alright, hello everyone, it's Pi here, and today we're doing something a little bit different. Um, as some of you know, I'm also an artist as well as a gamer, and I do upload some speed draws on occasion. The main reason why I don't do more of them, is because my recording software slightly lags my art program, so it's only a couple milliseconds, but it's enough that I can notice, especially when I'm doing like really precise work. Okay. Anyways, so this is something that I get requests for pretty much constantly. Um, and that is, how do you draw realistic eyes? So I thought about this for about a week now. How would I go about making a tutorial on this? And I wanted to do like a image tutorial, but there's just so many steps that I do that it would be difficult to get them all in there and not have it look like, the classic uh draw the sketch for an owl, now draw the rest of the owl. That image. So what I have here is a circle that I actually downloaded off of Wikipedia, and I've made this image transparent. um and now I have my selection tool, which shows up purple. This is my selection area. So basically, if I'm drawing, it keeps me inside the circle. Um, and basically, you can also see it if I push Control H. It's this little line that moves. I use the, what is that called? Magic wand? Yeah. Um, and that just makes it so that it's easier, because otherwise you would have to erase outside your scene constantly. And then I have also pulled up some eyes that I've done. So I thought about doing like the whole, like all the eye, um, like with the whites and everything. But I think if I just focus on the pupil in this one, and then I can do another tutorial if people are interested in the things like the lashes and waterline and the whites of the eye itself, as well as the pink. And I'm gonna have to say, if you hear meowing in the background, that is my cat. He likes to run around at night and meow, so sorry about that. Hopefully there's no crashing into stuff. So yeah, those are some eyes I did, and then these are some eyes in a more cartoon instance that I drew. And I pulled up specifically the work in progress screenshot of this, because the final version, the eyes are actually a bit obscured. Let me see if I can find that real quick. Where did I put it? There it is. All right. This is the final version, and you can see that the this lighting from the torch actually obscures the eyes quite a bit, especially this eye. I don't know if you guys can see my mouse cursor. Yeah, you can. Okay, awesome. So yeah, basically, this is what we're going to be doing. And my techniques pretty much apply to any color eye. I would say purple are the hardest, because if you have a nice light purple like this, and you go over it, eventually it's it's gonna get bluish rather than getting a darker version. See, it just becomes blue with the layer types that I use. Um, get rid of all that. So yeah, so what I'm going to do for this example is more of a hazel eyes, I guess. This is going to be the eye from a character mine, or the iris itself, I guess. So that's pretty much what we're going to be doing here. Yeah. So basically what we're going to do first is get our like base color in here, and when I'm drawing this character for my webcomic, I actually start with a green base color because it's literally a 2-second shading process on that, because I've got to get multiple drawings of the character, so they're not very detailed. They're cell shaded with a bit of a blur around the edge, so it doesn't look as cell shaded, I guess. But for this instance, because we're going to be putting more detail into it, I'm actually going to be starting with brown. And the thing is with eyes is you're not going to find this perfect circle in your drawing very often unless you're looking directly straight on at the character. You'll see that this eye here is more of an oval shape because of the you got that 3/4 perspective, whereas this one is more round, but it's also cut off here. And the thing with the 3/4 perspective is you've got your head like this, and then your line is, you've got your 3/4 and your 1/4 is actually not a true 3/4, and then you've got your eye line here where your pupils run through it. Her head's at a bit of an angle, which is why your eyes are going to be angled. It's also why you see part of the nose but not the other part completely, and the lips are at an angle. But this isn't a tutorial on 3-point perspective or 3/4 perspective. But yeah, it's, again, with this is more round because you've got more of a face on image, but this one is more oval than the other one. If you flip it, sometimes it becomes more apparent. If I flip this one, it's more of an oval. So you're not going to get this perfect thing. You'll either have like the top cut off because eyelids are naturally droopy, or it'll be slightly angled. So this tutorial is mostly for Paint Tool SAI, but most of the layer types that I use are also available in Photoshop. The only one that I haven't found a good alternative for is the luminosity layer, because Photoshop's luminosity layer works more with luminosity of the light itself, which its colors are red, green, and blue rather than red, yellow, blue. Whereas the SAI luminosity works more like when you look at a light itself. So, for example, if I were to put luminosity directly over this, it's got that nice halo, which is really good. And you can, mess with it and stuff. And it's really good for highlighting and stuff, but Photoshop doesn't really have that. Their luminosity layer is different. The other ones we're going to be using are screen, which basically just lightens it. And the thing with layer types when you're using them is, if this is a normal layer and I have a light color and I go over it, and then I have another normal layer and I go over it with that same color, it's just going to stay the same color and you're not going to be seeing those edges. But if I go over it with a screen layer, then you'll see those edges in there and it adds more depth. So that's what that layer is for. And multiply is the one I probably use the most. It just darkens it, and then you can go over it again and it redarkens it over the top, and it's very nice. Overlay, if I can click on it correctly, I haven't really found a good explanation for overlay. It kind of just it kind of brightens things. I use it a lot for adding more like reddish tint to skin mostly. Like if I put like an overlay over this, it's just gonna like tint her skin with that, and then it just kind of, I don't really know how to explain it, but like in her hair it makes it a more grayish color, and in her skin it adds more yellow because I'm using a very yellow based beige here. But if I were to go over it with a pink, it's gonna give her a pinkish tint, kind of like a, I guess if you had a light bulb that was that color. Yeah. And so if I go over this, it's going to add a pinkish color, and you're going to get this pink in between. And then I don't use shade too much. Oops, I don't want that one to be shade. But basically, it just shades stuff. I don't like it because of how dark it makes things very quickly. So if I do use it, I'll actually go over it, and then I'll just set the layer down a bit. So yeah, it just kind of adds a bit more depth. And then we have finally Lumion Shade, which is similar except that it does both luminosity and shading at the same time, I guess. It brightens the brights and darkens the darks, but in a really weird way. So yeah, and then the last option is binary color, which is just going to make it black, and I have never found a use for it. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is multiply layers. Yes, hello, Bappy. And we're going to put the iris in, and you'll see a lot of stuff in like anime where like if they're looking to their top right, like let me get a darker color for this, their pupil will be like in the top right, and like that's fine for cartooning, but the dark part of your eye doesn't move. It actually stays in the center. It can get bigger or smaller, but the center of it will always be the center of the eye. So it should always be in the center. So like with this, her eye's looking this way, but you'll see that the pupil itself is in the center of the eye. So it's the color itself that moves, which is again why you're not really gonna just undo everything. You're not going to see most of the iris because it moves. So we're gonna put. We're also gonna say this is SAI real quick because I don't know why it's not saving. So we're gonna just put our thing in there. You can reverse your image to see if it's straight, but honestly, because it's just not going to get perfectly straight, especially not on the first thing. My cat is having the time of his life. I have a hotkey. I press F to put the contents of a layer down one layer. So you'll notice over here, I push F and it goes down. You can also do this one to copy it down and delete the layer you were working on, and this one is the same as putting down F. It's a transfer down layer. So anytime that you see me like working and it's progressively getting darker every time, it's not the brush, I'm just pushing F. Oops. And basically the first thing you want to do is just get your pupil established, and it's okay to go like, it doesn't need to be perfect because your pupils, it's going to have a little bit of bleed into the thing. You just want to get it to mostly black in the middle with like this nice rim around it. So now if I middle click it, we're just slightly, our value is at 21, so it's going to be slightly above the black. So we don't want it to be a perfect black because we still need it to have shading, but just looking at that, it looks black. Yeah, so the next thing I'm going to do is change my airbrush is what I'm using here. I use bristle. but you could use anything as long as it does this. There's a nice, I think it's called hair or fur something in Corel Painter, and I think there's an equivalent in Photoshop, but you can also download Photoshop brushes. It's really easy. So this is going to be like the main texture of the eye. So this is also a multiplayer layer, and what I'm doing is I'm just gonna like flick it into the center and then just go around the whole eye doing this. And basically the brush, what is that called? The this thing just makes it so that you don't have to draw every one of these lines by hand. So you want some overlap, but not too much, and also lights and darks and midtones and stuff. And then I'm gonna transfer that down and repeat the whole thing, but not going as far into my eye. So like with these ones, I was going all the way in. These ones, I'm actually stopping about midway. So you're just gonna keep doing that. And like you don't want it to be perfect because nobody's eyes are like Instagram influencer perfect. They're just eyes. And we're going to do it a third time around, and this time we're actually not going to start at the complete edge. We're going to start somewhere in the middle, and this is just going to give it like, because your eye is a dome and it actually comes up and then it goes in, so it's actually, the color bit's more like a donut and it goes in around the dark and in on where it connects to the white. So this adds that raised bit around the middle. And like if you don't like a line bit like that one, you can just Control Z or Command Z if you're on Apple or whatever it is that you have set to it. All right, and you can also turn off your layer and be like, oh, I missed a bit there, I missed a bit there. You know, turn it back on. Do I like those bits there? Yeah, and then so now you've got like your basic texture. Now because we're doing hazel eyes, I'm going to change my thing. First, I'm going to open a new file actually. This is where I store color palettes I've used previously so that I can use them again or whatever. And I'm just going to store this color that I've been using as my base color so I can easily grab it again if I need it. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this, I'm going to move it more to the red so that we have this blue-green color. And now I'm also going to save that color over here. So yeah. And now what I'm going to do is add more lines just around the very edge with this blue-green color. And you can see that this really adds like a lot of texture to the eyes really fast. And it's probably the way I found that's the easiest for this. So now I'm going to pull my brown color back up so I can work more around the center. And what we're going to do is change the bit back to a simple circle, and then I'm going to pull up what's called fuzzy static, I think. I don't know if this is a standard SAI texture, but it basically looks like that. It's like gravel, I guess. And I'm going to put it around the pupil like this. And just sort of like little circling bits. Pressing very light and then darker around the base. So that then you get texture. I'm actually going to change this opacity to around 50% and merge it down. And then I'm going to get my green color and go another fuzzy static around my edge. And I do want this to be pretty even, but not perfect. And then I'm also going to turn that down to about 36. I could do a 50, but I don't want it that dark. And now, make a new multiply layer. I don't know why sometimes I delete my multiplies and sometimes I don't. So now what I'm gonna do is just keep adding detail. I want my thicker bristles for this, and I'm going to add some like this, I think. Basically, it's just doing what looks right, and then just keep doing it and keep doing it, and getting darker and darker and darker as you go. So I really like that, but I don't want it that dark, so I'm gonna lighten it. Nice. I want more of like a reddish tint in the center, so I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to use my blur tool. So this is a very bright pink, so this is where the layer types come in, and I can mess around with like, what does it look like in different things, and yeah, so I'm probably going to use shade for this one, so I just want to really smoothly blur it in there. And then I'm actually going to lower this opacity down to about 15, 16. So you can see that without it, it's kind of pale and desaturated, and with it, it just adds a bit more saturation. Okay, so now I'm going to use my Scribbles pen, and I think I'm going to get my brown color again. And Scribbles pen is kind of like a crayon, I guess. It just has this texture, so like, let me make it smaller. It's like this, so it's kind of watery and it's got a nice soft edge, unlike the watercolor, which is the same texture, but the more you go on it, the darker it'll get. Which watercolor is also a very good brush to use, but I'm not going to use it for this yet. So that just adds that like sun ray out, I guess. And I'm going to put that down, and then I'm going to do it again. The middle. And now I think what I want to do is bristle, and I'm going to desaturate this color and then darken it. And I actually want some more of that, but I don't think I'm going to use that one. I'm going to use stringy L. Yeah, that's better. It's just a matter of experimenting with your brush types and knowing what you like. So this one adds a bit, like, it actually reminds me of the sunflower. Yeah, so put that down, put that back up. Alright, now I am actually going to use my watercolor brush in the middle of this, and it has that really nice texture around it, which I can actually use my brush very lightly pushing to blur it in, which I love about the watercolor brush, because you can really decide how you want to blur it without changing your brush type. And now I'm going to get a darker blue and go around my edges here. And you'll notice that this is getting very dark. And very not really saturated so much as it's just the whole image, the value of it is becoming a lot darker and closer to black as I go along, and we're actually going to fix that here in a minute. So a lot of eyes have a dark rim around them, and they actually, even with blue eyes, or even with brown eyes, I mean, it'll have this slightly like bluish tint around the edges of it. These ones you don't notice it so much because it's got that black line, but here it's most apparent right here, and like you can see if I really zoom in, you can see where the lighter bit is. I haven't found the perfect way of going about making that. But basically, like if you just had like a screen layer, I guess, right around your edge, then that'll do that for you. And that's what I typically do, but it doesn't always work as intended. Sometimes it just is like, why is it lighter on the edge? And it's like, yeah. And then one of the things you'll notice is like with this one especially, you've got like almost this shelf of like a different color here. And again, that's just going to be the screen. And then I think I actually used gray in my other one, but you're just like making a half moon with the watercolor here, and then just blurring it in. And this is making the eye look really cloudy right now, because it is covering up the iris itself. So you can actually just erase that and then very carefully blur it in. And now you've got that almost like a shelf right there. I don't really know what else to call it. And if you don't want it that lighter, you can just tone it down. So there's without, and there it is with it, and it just adds that more dimension to it. You'll notice that there's like almost a line right here, and that's like the ridge of the eye before it starts going down into the pupil. So now we're going to start adding shading to the eye that would be from the eyelid. So eyes right about here, and then this top half moon is darker. And again, here it's darker on the top, and this is from the eyelid. We don't have an eyelid here, but we're still gonna do that. So basically, I just do airbrush, multiply layer, with a more desaturated color, and you just do that. I mean, you just shade it and then you just blur it so that it's not a hard thing, and then you just want to keep doing that until it looks right. And lighting plays a lot into this too. So we're just going to assume normal lighting here. Depending on how dark your eyes are, you'll have to get darker with this. I only had to do about 3 layers there to get the effect I wanted, whereas like with this one, I think I had to do like 20 layers. This one, I think I only had to do 1. So yeah, it's just kind of trial and error and knowing what your lighting is. So now we're going to add like some highlight bits in here. So that's going to be with the luminosity layer, and I actually use my base color with it, and you're going to want to add like right along the ridge. And I typically do like this kind of a shape, and then I blur it on one side so that it has that crisp edge there, so you end up with like this U around it. And then I just lower my luminosity down, make that not quite as sharp, and then just merge that down. And then I'll typically do it again. The light reflection is going to be up here, so I'm just going to do that. Yeah, and then that looks good. And then I actually want to add some more like green to this. So I'm going to use an overlay, and I'm going to put overlay around like this edge here with a green color. And then I'm going to tone it down about there. And this character's eyes are technically all colors, so we are going to add in a bit of purple. And I'm going to put it right here. Rather than being around the whole pupil, I'm just going to put it around part of the pupil. And then we'll add some more natural purple. Well, I say natural, it's not really natural. I'll put that one on a multiply layer though. so that it's not lightening it at all. And then just blur it in there. Now we've got purple leading down to there. We'll add in, but if we've got some yellow here, but I'm gonna put this on a overlay and put some more yellow over here, just to kind of balance out this side. And then I'm gonna add some dark blues around the top. And I'll put it here too. And this bit isn't like as precise and stuff because I just want it to have like a messier multicolor look to it, but still have like, if you look at the eye from further away, it's going to seem like mostly green, maybe with a bit around the center. Yeah, like with this one, I used a more neon green for right here and a more desaturated green for this side, just to balance out the light. This one is a nice reddish brown, and then you've got the blue gray in the middle. And the reason why her eyes are colored this way is because I could not find a reference that had a distinct eye color. In the 2013 and 2018 games, her eyes are grayish, but according to the wiki, they're brown, and all the old games had them as like a very bright reddish brown, so I couldn't decide. Okay, so now we're going to add in the highlight. This is going to be a luminosity. I have found the best color to highlight eyes with in general for any color eye is a pale yellow. And so what we're going to do is decide on like our shape for our highlight. So for this one, I'm just going to do like that. And like you can erase like around your edge, like if you don't like that edge, I guess. Like that. And then just blur it a bit, like right there. Because your reflection isn't going to be like perfect, like, you know, it's not going to look like that. I mean, they do sometimes, but generally there's going to be a hard edge to it and then it softens. So then I'm going to put that layer down and I'm going to go over it again with the same color on the luminosity layer, and that's just going to add that rim light halo effect. And then you can actually also add a secondary bit here. And again, this is where the whoops, dropped my pen on the ground. This is where the Control Z comes in. If you don't like that bit, which I don't actually think I do, you don't have to have it. So yeah, that's pretty much how I draw eyes. Sometimes I'll actually add a circle over here and then blur it like a ton and then do that. So yeah, that's how I draw eyes. So yeah, thanks for watching. If you want to see more of my art, I'm leaving a link to my Patreon down in the description, where you can view all my art, and for $1 a month you can actually see all of my work in progress. So that includes pencil sketches, images like this one, where it's just random images from right in the middle stuff. I do occasionally post tutorials. On occasion you'll actually be able to see my finished artwork a day or so early. You'll get email updates whenever I post something new. And you'll also be helping support me in my love of art. So you should definitely check that out if you like my work. I can actually get rid of this black outline. So yeah, if you like my art, definitely let me know. Check out my Patreon. There's links to my other social media as well in the description. Thanks for watching. Let me know if this is any other sort of tutorial that you would like to see, or just how you think I could improve my videos. So yeah, thanks for watching. See y'all in the next video. Bye bye.